beautiful people. It is so lovely to once again to have your company and to sit down and have a conversation, take a journey. So those of you that are listening via the podcast, I am currently sitting in the old weaver's chair beside the altar, and there above me, you can see just behind me, there above me is the old ladder of 9 that watches over the space, handcrafted by a really dear, wonderful and treasured friend of mine. So Weaver's chair, it was gifted to me some time back by another really dear friend, of the most amazing people in my world, and it was gifted to me, and it literally has been crafted from an old weaving loom. And if I remember rightly, the chair itself and the weaving loom it's around about 400 years old. Just absolutely incredible. To be able to rest into this chair, and meet the day as I have done for some time, has just been an incredible gift. It's like this chair is a journey chair without a shadow of a doubt. It is a vehicle that allows me to kind of deeply just kind of sink into the liminal, those places in between places, and to be able to journey. Quite often I would start my day in the old weaver's chair, sitting there underneath the ladder of 9, and I would just very gently just meet the day, a sense of deep listening to the day, just kind of moving into that consciously rather than kind of jumping out of bed and tearing into the day. There was this sense of just gently sitting in the chair, allowing myself to kind of awaken into the world, and at the same time just gently listen to its rhythm, gently listen to its tone, its feeling, and kind of gently just lean into that consciously, and at the same time to just very humbly light a candle or 2 or 3 on the altar, and very gently just kind of weave some prayers of thanks and of gratitude, and place a blessing upon all those that I hold dear, a blessing upon the land that surrounds me, upon the people that surround me, the people that I hold dear, and all those that I am honoured to work with, the experiences of the days, the months, the years that have gone by, and to just really gently just kind of lean into that space consciously, and to feel its kind of heartbeat, to feel its rhythm. And when the chair was gifted to me, I was like, it's just incredible. It being made from a weaving loom, it's just like, so these things are just beyond magical. They're just absolutely beyond magical, especially as so much of my language over the last couple of years has been about crafting and weaving, bringing the threads together, and then discovering some of the energies that have been working around me, Freya, and then really understanding that I had this sense of this lady that would appear constantly in my awareness, that was sitting a weaving loom, with a real sense that she was of Nordic heritage. There was a real feeling of that, and then I kept hearing the words Frey, believing that was Freya, and then understanding for a really good friend of mine who knows inside and out the Nordic myths and traditions and legends, saying to me, you know, are you sure that's Freya? Although my understanding as I've gone forwards is there is this kind of merging between Frey and Freya, and Frey, as I said in my previous video, is all about kind of creating space, weaving together a sense of belonging, weaving together a sense of home. You know, she is a keeper of the hearth and home. And, you know, I really do feel that as I move forwards, I am creating this sense of space for people to have a feeling of belonging, you know, because we're going through such a shift and a time that there is this sense that I see quite often with those that I am honoured to work with and those that I come into contact with, that there is this sense of feeling for a lot of people, a real feeling of disorientation. You know, they're not recognising the world that we're currently living in. You know, things are you know, kind of falling over and dismantling. You know, there's so much about where we are now that is so different to how it was 3 years ago. You know, so for some people, or for many people, you know, the world around us right now is unrecognisable. But you know, I really do feel, and I really, really, really want to get this across, that I feel that, you know, what is happening is also going to be far greater in the long term than we could ever imagine. You know, that you know, when spirits say we are being woven back into the center and we are moving from harm to healing, that is exactly where we are going. So as much as it seems overwhelming for so many people, actually where we're going is going to be, you know, it's going to have more heart, it's going to have more maybe more substance to it. Not maybe, thank you. It's going to have more substance to it. It's going to be more authentic, it's going to be more real. And that's all coming from the ground up. That's coming from a grassroots level. And it's coming through individuals. It's coming through pockets, micro pockets of community. You know, you've got all these micro communities that absolutely are being born. So, you know, for me, it really does make sense that over the last few years that there has been this, you know, this sense of these particular energies moving around me, you know, because if I look at what I do within my consulting, what I'm really kind of doing is igniting, nourishing, nurturing, facilitating this sense of, you know, bringing people back to self, back in relationship with themselves, to know, huge amount of thunder then, to know who they are, you know, to remember who they are, you know. So it's this sense of bringing people back home to self, bringing people back home to each other, bringing people back home to the land that we live upon. You know, there is this sense of it's this feeling of coming back home in all manner of ways. So, you know, for me it makes sense, you know, of, you know, to be really kind of, you know, blessed to be able to, you know, work with these energies such as Freya, Bridget. You know, if I kind of, you know, take a moment and kind of look at them individually, you know, Frey, you know, sitting there at a weaving loom, you know, being the mistress of hearth and home, and then, you know, Bridget, without a doubt, being the mistress of hearth, home and flame. And then, you know, for years and years and years and years, having this deep connection to Odin, you know, him being this wanderer wanderer, warrior, storyteller. The stories that move through me. We don't go and look for these things. These things come to us. They take hold within us and they move through us. So, I'm really, really aware that there is this time that we're living in that feels like, for many people, unknown, uncertain, disorientating, maybe even scary. And there's so much about it that we come into contact with every day that is, kind of really accelerating this sense of fight and flight. The mainstream media around us is absolutely fueling and trying to trigger constantly this fight and flight. We've only got to look at the news and see that is constantly being stoked up, and that has an effect on our physiology. And it's almost like this narrative of absolute freaking doom every day. And I think, yes, it's important to have an understanding of what is going on in the world, and it's not to say those things are not real, because they are, but it's the way that the story's being delivered, constantly just trying to fuel and knock people over. And I kind of really feel, and it come to me yesterday, that having a interaction with that, and to a certain extent to those that lead us, is like being in a narcissistic relationship, because it's constantly trying to trigger you into uncertainty, into fear. And I remember Spirit many years back saying, if you find yourself playing tennis with a narcissist, what is the best thing to do? And I thought, wow, that's quite a conversation. And they simply said the best thing to do is to put down the racket and walk off the court. And I think that in a way that's what we've got to do, because it is, yes, we need to have an understanding of what's going on in the world, but maybe we need to look wider. Maybe we need to look in other directions for a more balanced viewpoint, or, kind of, absorbing information differently, because it is fueled by trying to absolutely trigger fear and constantly move people into heightened anxiety. And I think one of the best things we can do is switch off that, and maybe touch base with it once or twice a week, and to look for a wider perspective, because it is like being in a relationship with an abusive, narcissistic partner that is constantly just ramping up this heightened anxiety. And I think that, for so many people, they are not recognizing the world around them. And also there is this real deep sense that there are swathes of people going, well, that no longer works for me, so I need to do things differently. And then it's that sense of, what do I do? And that's where your micro communities come in, because those micro communities are finding and cutting new templates. As Spirit said some time back, that from the shell of the old world a new world will be born. And that's not to say that you kind of like just breaking away from the old world. No, we're taking the best of the old world into a new world. It's like the new world is based on the best of the old world, the old tradition, the old ways, that old wisdom that has been there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And in a way, it's like being in the modern times using the best of the ancient wisdom, and kind of merging that. And I've got behind me, and you'll see within some of the shots here within this video, they're sitting there as this beautiful sphere that's been crafted for me again by my wonderful friend that crafted the ladder of nine. And it's this sense of, you know, a new earth, a new world being born, from the shell of the old. And you know, Spirit said it, didn't they, in 2019, when someone asked me what's this next year bring, and I remember looking down at the floor and kind of looking back up, and the words clearly were, from the shell of the old world a new world will be born. You know, I'm seeing that in micro communities, and I'm really blessed to be a part of a couple of really robust, resilient, generous, kind, heart-centered communities that are so generous in sharing their wisdom, their knowledge, their skills, their expertise, their heart, and also that are really self-organized. And there is this sense of, you know, really everybody kind of rolling up their sleeves and getting engaged, and working together. And the beautiful thing about a lot of that is it is completely self-organized, and that's what I'm kind of seeing. So as much as the doom merchants out there that are daily through mainstream media weaving all this stuff, you know, there is this other side of things that so many people may not be seeing, where people are finding solutions and they are cutting a new template. You know, so my feeling is, with those energies that are working with me and through me, such as Freya, Freya, and I feel there is a merging between them. It's almost like there's this shape shifting, this merging, this sense of their energies are, you know, kind of different sides of a coin almost. You know, there's something about them that is very nourishing and nurturing, you know, and this sense of hearth and home, with Freya, hearth, home, love, healing. It is all about nourishing and creating a sense of home. And that's the thing, you know, the land around us is home. And you know, there's this real feeling of, you know, us being woven back into the center, which is something else the innate says to me often, that within that we have this different relationship with ourselves, each other, the land around us. But is it different? You know, our Spirit often says to me that it's a time of remembrance rather than learning. So that is that whole thing about when they say we're in a cycle of return, that we're remembering what it is to be at home with ourselves, what it is to be at home with each other, what it is to be at home within the land around us, and what it is to be in community, yet at the same time to have that stillness and that peace. And I think that those energies moving around me is not by chance. You know, even when I look at, you know, Freya, Bridget, you know, all about hearth, home and flame. And then when I kind of think about Odin, I'm not sure, it's hard to show you, but there on my shoulder is this incredible tattoo, incredible tattoo of Odin that sits on my shoulder and has done for many years. And the fact that it sits on my shoulder, since guiding me, none of that, you know, was thought about at the time, but it makes sense, you know. And one of the things, or the ways he shows up for me, is a wanderer, a warrior, and a storyteller. You know, and those energies really do move through me, you know. And I'm going to show you within this video some clips of what I got up to yesterday, but I'll come back to that. So we got this sense of a new template being cut, and organically so. And I'm going to read this. A really dear friend had shared this with me, and I placed it in my journal, my new journal that was actually gifted by her. Is it beautiful? Absolutely stunning, beautiful, beautiful. And it's in the front page because it does absolutely anchor and remind me of those new templates being cut. And I think that's the other thing that I'm, wanting to do with the wilderness skills and the foraging and it's time to grow a garden is to give people knowledge, skills, stirring up the remembrance that we have a way of cutting that new template. So it's a place for people to kind of rest into, to sit by the fire and to drink a cup of tea, to meet and connect with like-minded people, like-minded individuals, to connect with community, to share those ideas, to share that wisdom, to share that knowledge, and to birth that new template, and for people to go away with tangible skills, if that be, how to light a fire, or to go and forage one or two simple plants, such as nettle or three-cornered leek or dandelion or elderflower, and then to kind of really weave them into their life. My relationship with nettle, a very simple plant that is absolutely in abundance out there, is deepening, to understand that I can make tea from it, I can make soups from it, nettle and potato soup, really, really, really good nourishing food. And nettle is a superfood, without a shadow of a doubt, to be able to make a cold infusion early spring that just brings you all the minerals that you need after a very long winter, to be able to make nettle, potato and leek pie, or to be able to make nettle pasta, or later in the year to make an autumn winter like nettle type soap, from nettle that you've foraged and dried, and then you rehydrate and put into the soap. It's like such an incredible plant, and it's one that's often overlooked, but it's kind of just about showing people those simple skills that our ancestors were deeply in touch with. And those that you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I put up this really practical post on how to make laundry detergent using some of those old school ingredients. And I think I've been able to probably make 6 months worth for about £12.50, using products such as borax and soap flakes, and making laundry soap bars, using laundry soap bars, and incredible. It take well, it didn't. I was going to say it took a little bit of work to be able to source those products, but not really. Might have to go to one or two shops, but the savings was incredible, and a little bit of time. I think it took half an hour, and probably about half an hour of shopping time, but for 6 months worth for £12.50, and that again is where we're sharing those skills, we're sharing that knowledge, we're sharing that wisdom, and that's coming at a grassroots level. And I think that the space that is birthing around me is all about that, where people can literally sit together and share that knowledge and that wisdom, and also it becomes like a place of stillness. It becomes for a while a place of rest, a place of peace, where you can just watch those flames in that fire, and you can slowly watch that kettle brew. Now I'm going to share this with you in this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful journal. And again, you know, never by chance. Have a look at this. Let's put that gently to one side. And those of you that are listening to this on the podcast, I am showing to the camera this incredible cover of this journal. For me, this is without a shadow of a doubt, this is Odin. This is Odin. It's absolutely stunning. Never by chance, is it? Never by chance. I'm going to read you this. An extract from a post that was shared with me. Okay, so let's start here. So I'm not reading it all, but I'm going to read this part, maybe half. Gasoline. So it was a lady in America that wrote this, absolutely beautiful and profound, and I will put links into the video and also into the show notes on the podcast. Gasoline become obsolete or so ridiculously expensive that they began walking and riding bicycles or moving to little villages. Now, just a side note, is 2 years ago, first year of the global craziness that happened, is I had this dream where this man appeared with long white hair, and I just got clarity now of who he was. I just in that moment, I don't know why it didn't come to me, because it's actually obvious, but it's that thing of sometimes they're hiding in plain sight just in that moment. So my dear friend that gifted me this, a penny has dropped. So this man appears with long white hair and a long white beard, standing, it's just got goosebumps, and standing just outside of the pathway from the buffet on the trackway that leads down to the 5-bar gate, and he's standing there. He looks over to me and says, "Okay now." And I walk over to him, and he greets me in such a warm way, like very fatherly, very nourishing, very lovingly, but he has a strength to him. And a kind of fierceness underneath. And he just says to me, "It's okay now." And we walk together. And we walk to the 5-bar gate. And as we arrive at the 5-bar gate, as I look over, these bikes go past him, and it's vintage type bikes with girls in vintage type clothing. Yeah, it's set time wise in the here and now. And I remember looking at it thinking, that's interesting. These girls go past and they smile and they ring their bells and they wave to me. And then I kind of look across, and we got all kind of generations, and this is interesting, all generations, and there's bunting going up. Think about where we are in the UK in time now, and there's children playing, and they're playing with wooden toys. So they're playing in wooden toys. Airplane, this boy's running around with this wooden aircraft, and there's another little boy with a car, and someone else with a boat, and then this little girl with a dolly, and then there's all generations sitting there, and then this girl appears out of nowhere, standing there in this vintage dress with a pair of Wellington boots, kind of cheekily pinches me and says, "How there you are, how's our parsnips growing?" And this is someone I don't know yet. They felt very familiar to me within the dream. Someone I'm yet to meet. And it was such a vivid, clear dream that has always stuck with me. But as time goes by, more and more seems to unravel, more and more seems to become clearer, more and more kind of speaks to me, as if it becomes just layered, it unravels, it unfolds, it reveals more of itself. And when I kind of read that opening bit, gasoline become obsolete or so ridiculously expensive that they become walking and riding bicycles or moving to little villages. That dream comes to mind, that they went past and they were wearing vintage clothes and they were on bicycles and the children were playing with wooden toys. All of that comes to mind. Remember, this was wrote from a lady in America. BlackRock and Vanguard brought all the affordable homes, so they began to live in communities in the wild. Water began to be rationed, so they began to dig wells and create habitats that attracted rain. They made organic foods and meat illegal, so they began to create black markets of pure foods and eat in the ways of our ancestors. Foraging. This actually made the people more clear, strong and healthier. They began to only allow medical care for those who would take the shots and digital ID. So they began to lean towards herbs, old ways of healing, opening shut down detox systems like they have been doing in Vedic and Chinese traditions. They use the incredible new devices like Healy. I'm not sure, I need to read up on that and discover a little bit more, research that. And learned to commune with their bodies. They made school illegal for children who didn't have 72 to 86 shots. So the parents created their own schools where they actually taught useful things like how to change a tyre, make broth, grow a garden or sew a dress. They tried to divide the people with gender and race. However, the people knew this was a tactic of war, and the majority of humanity believed in equality and compassion for all. That's something else I really do feel, with that mainstream information, news, and that kind of monster, is that, there is this constant wedge that is being placed in there. But actually, I see within community that you have a diverse spectrum of people that actually do really want to help each other, do want to work together, and actually not only do want to, they do, and actually, there is a kindness innately within humanity. And we're seeing that with some of the other things that are going on in the world right now as well. We're seeing the best of people too. They tried to use UFO sightings to instill fear. That is something, if you kind of look on the edge of the mainstream media, that's something else that is beginning to percolate. And I know some really kind of connected people that have said this way before time, that there'd be that sort of kind of stuff beginning to be moved into the mainstream domain and information. And you've only got to look at all the all the movies that are out there. It's us at war with the universe, and we conquer the aliens. It's like, my God, I'm sure with all that advanced technology that they would have if they choose to, we would just be kicked off this planet like a piece of dust. It isn't the approach that I feel. That is just stereotypical. We're at war with them, we're going to conquer them, we're going to win, just like freaking everything else that the world leaders and everything that comes with that. And that's the thing, it's not so much them, it's the stuff behind them that we can't see, that's really the problem. Really problem. They are only but having their strings being pulled quite often. So yes, however, these people, meaning us, however, these people had always felt like aliens themselves, so they didn't pay much attention. They disrupted the financial system. That is absolutely what's going on at the moment, and all currencies, all stock is. They disrupted the financial system, but the people began to barter and create other systems. This is this whole thing about, that organically those things are birthing. Organically, those things are happening. At a very deep grassroots level, there is a new template that is being cut, which is absolutely incredible and beautiful. In the end, the dismantling of the old earth was a good thing, for now the people were really, truly free. And at the beginning of that post, and I'm going to send you the link, they're talking about the problem, the situation that's happening out in the States around baby formula. That there's been this absolute shortage of it, this huge shortage of it. People are really resilient. They find another way, and that isn't the case for everybody, because there will be some children that will have a reaction to maybe formula or even breast milk, but there is this sway of resilience in there that it's like, right, okay, so we don't have milk formula, okay, so we go back to breastfeeding. Not everybody can, and that is quite hard, and painful and traumatic for mothers that can't. But those that can't, there are people within the community, incredible women in the community, that are expressing milk. Wet nurses were a thing at one time. So what we've got is, right, we're going to throw that at you, but the people, they just go, okay, well, we are resilient, we'll find another way. And in a way, that's where we're being woven back in the centre. And it says here, they took away baby formula, so mothers began breastfeeding again. And if they biologically couldn't, sisters in their communities pumped extra milk. A wet nurse used to be a thing. It is, you're talking about, like, just again another wave of stuff that absolutely hits people. When you're talking about something that is so precious, how terrifying would that be if you cannot get milk formula? But what it does is, for a lot of people, it kind of weaves them back into the centre to go back to doing things how we did before, and actually it has the opposite effect. And then you've got the kindness of absolute strangers, that sisters within the community, women within the community, are then rallying together to support other mothers. I think it's the opposite to what they were trying to achieve, and actually, instead of kind of like fracture and terrify, people went, okay, right, this is what we do, and then we'll also look after those around us. That is where, it really gives me incredible hope, because I'm seeing that at a community level, and I'm absolutely seeing that with people around me as well, looking out for each other, and something that naturally started to organically birth in the community that I grow food within. That there on a Sunday, it's a beautiful little space that we share together, and there on a Sunday on the table, plates of food started to appear, and people would go off and they would work either together or individually. They work on their plots of land, and then come the afternoon, people would then come wander over, fold back the tablecloths, and the dishcloths, fold back the tablecloths, and reveal all this wonderful food and sit there and share together. It's just really, really beautiful. So I'm going to very, very gently leave you with the last few thoughts. Is you will see in the next lot of shots there, my little adventure that I had yesterday, and I'm going to share more about that in next week's podcast and video. And as I sit here in the weaver's chair, with the candles lit, as I finish up, I'm just going to weave a prayer. Let this conversation be a intention and a woven prayer of sorts, and it kind of really stirs up that thought within me that I was finding myself over this last spring and summer spending less time in this weaver's chair, and I remember kind of thinking that, and then feeling from spirit, Frey, and Freya, and also Bridget, and also Brenna. And Brenna is going to be a big part of next week's conversation. I just felt this kind of response to them that, well, during the spring and summer you're out on the land. The land is your altar. Because I used to sit in the weaver's chair over the autumn and winter, and each day weave those prayers. And they just very gently, with huge love and compassion that seemed to envelope that message. Well, during the spring and summer, the land becomes your altar, because I would literally be out on the land weaving that intention, sitting if I go somewhere new, or arrive at the kitchen garden, or over at Dad's wonderful woodland, to do a journey or some work. Or even sit around the fire and share a story or two, or sit there alone and wait for the kettle to brew. I would weave those prayers, so I was like, yeah, that completely makes sense to me, that during the autumn and winter, the weaver's chair and the altar becomes my altar, and then during the summer, spring and summer, the land literally becomes my altar, and I weave my prayers in that way, in that direction. And that's that spiral. We spiral out into the world during the spring and summer, and then come autumn we begin to spiral inward, and come the winter we literally do, and then I find myself back in the weaver's chair. And I think that's the thing, is my intention going forwards is to continue to nurture spaces that bring people back home, bring people back to the centre, to show them that we are in that cycle of return, and that we continue to move from harm to healing, and to ignite spaces that nourish them, that nurture them, that help them with their remembrance, and bring them back home, and to create a place of rest, and to create yes, create a place of stillness, and a place to share collective and individual stories. So next week's conversation is going to be very much about an experience I had this week, and another layer of remembrance, and also going to feature really deeply about Brenna. But until then, keep shining, keep journeying, and keep remembering. Sending you all so much love.